Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Munson Steed, and my co-host, Terry Shropshire, for the Rolling Out News Report. We have a very exciting group of individuals coming to speak the truth to power. We also have a few messages and a few anecdotes for those of you who are wondering, how did we get here? We'll ask our guests how we got here, what you should be aware of, and what type of lens you should put on. Many wondered if we'd ever have an evolution versus a revolution. And we are now sitting at a seat where we can ask. So don't forget to ask in this moment because it's a true uprising. My co host, Terry Shropshire, the first King James. How are you?
What's happening, man? What's going on? Well, I shouldn't ask what's going on because there's a lot going on.
Ha! What's going on, Terry?
Not much, man. Just trying to keep up with everything that's transpiring and everything that's. It's like a blizzard of information. It's like a, it's yeah. It's just coming and coming, and it never stops. There's something new every day about the same exact thing. So it just takes different forms and shapes, and we just try to interpret it and learn from it.
Well, I think it's more than what people had anticipated. So you really have a moment where the community sees itself differently and is executing on that. And society is working to catch up as
Yes.
it continues to address things that we didn't think. What are your thoughts? And we'll save this, but we've got a dear friend of the brand, a real mover and change agent, comes on every morning on WVON, our brother and friend, intellectual businessman, Maze Jackson. Hey, Maze, come on in. Hang out with Rolling Out News Report.
What's going on, fellas? Can
Hey,
you
what's
see me?
yeah? What's cracking?
Can you
We
see
don't
me?
we don't see you, but we hear. There you go.
Hey,
We see you
there
now.
you go. All right, I got it. I'm getting used to this technology. I'm a radio guy, but honored to be here today on the panel. Thank you guys. My name is Maze Jackson. You can catch me every day, Monday through Friday, 1690 a.m. on WVON. I am the host of the morning show. You can also check me out live on Facebook Live on the Maze Jackson page. Honored to be here tonight to have joined into this great discussion with Rolling Out, my main man, Munson Steed, who, has been a motivator and an inspiration for myself, as well as I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs around the world. And then journalist, commentator. I don't know how to title you, Terry, but I know that, if I turn on the TV, if I look in the publication, you are there. And then I turn on my TV, lo and behold, you're on TMZ. And now I'm here on the show with you with Rolling Out. So I'm fired up, guys.
Well, just call me a savant.
A savant. No idiot, right?
I am humbly the oracle around this piece. You know what I'm saying? But
You've been there for a long time, bro. Long
yeah,
time.
yeah. I put a lot of miles into the game, man. So you know what I'm saying. So, but I see that you a vet to the game as well, man. Because you didn't even have to ask us to, wait for us to introduce you. You did that yourself.
You know what? I think I got caught up in between the video and I wasn't sure, so I apologize.
No, it's all good, man. You know what I'm saying. You flow correctly, so it's great.
Thanks, brother.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
There were a lot of surprises, Maze, during this last 2 weeks. They really thought they knew this generation, Gen X, Gen Z. They really thought they knew the emotions of our community. And all of a sudden, everybody had to have a new lens and a new narrative about this uprising. How would you describe your transition over the last 2 weeks as it relates to this uprising?
You know what? I would say, Brother Steve, that realistically over the last 2 weeks, and realistically, Well, I guess it has been 2 weeks. I think the biggest thing that has come to fruition is, I remember being a young, angry Black man during the times of Rodney King and a variety of those incidents. I think watching the young people take it to the next level was really what caught me off guard. I think that I actually saw a snapshot of what anarchy could look like, is what I thought when I saw last week. I think the other thing is, I think that while Black Lives Matter kicked off the movement, I feel like a majority of the people that I watched that were out, that were in the streets, that were committing the most crazy acts, not the person that broke the window, not the person that went in after the window was broke, the person that climbed on the building. I remember watching down in Atlanta, and the National Guard was deployed, and I see a white guy climb up and spray paint BLM on the walls, and I'm saying, man, the white folks are taking up this fight or using this fight. And then it just took me back to the 60s and early 70s with the hippies, and thinking these white kids were going to turn out to be the next generation of corporate America, and the Black kids would be the Panthers and go to jail. So that's I felt like it was history repeating itself. I don't think that it was completely unseen. I think it's the first time that we've seen it, and I think it kind of skipped over a couple generations, but I think this is history repeating itself. It's just larger.
Yeah, and it's just interesting how things are playing out, like the the euphemisms that are being used and the symbolism that is being used. Like, for example, there is going to be a White House rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on June 19th. Now, Tulsa, Oklahoma is the site of 100 years ago when we had Black Wall Street and it was bombed and destroyed. And June 19th is Juneteenth. So I don't think that is just a coincidence. And then I look it up, and CNN is going to have a roundtable hosted by the White House in Dallas, but the police chief, who is Black, is not invited. How do you have a law enforcement roundtable in Dallas and not invite the police chief? So the shenanigans and the machinations continue despite the insurrectionists broke out across the country. What do you think about that, Dr. Jackson?
Here's what I think about that. I think that even if the Black chief was invited, he would be vilified if he went, right? So I'll give you the example of Eddie Johnson. I think that in one part of the world, so I have a different perspective. I believe that we should talk to everybody. I think we should be in every room with the crackers, with the racists, with the liberals, here's the deal. I don't argue over which white person is more racist. I have been in the room with the most liberal of liberal people and been invisible, and walked into a room full of white people who I'm in direct opposition with and been able to find some common ground. So I think that what we have to stop I think Black people do themselves a disservice by marginalizing their argument, by saying, again, if you look at the state of our communities right now, and I'll just use Chicago, Black people are the last in all 16 economic indicators. But here in Illinois, in Chicago, we have almost all of the top elected spots, right? And so what I think happens is we confuse our politics and our interests with personalities. I grew up in a suburb, and so I grew up living next door to people like Donald Trump every day, right? Real talk. And I had to figure out a way to navigate those waters and still be successful and not be held back, not kowtow. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but it's a lot of people using this crazy stuff going on to manipulate us, right? There are more white people screaming Black Lives Matter to absolve themselves personally of systemic racism, and then they're going to go back to work and treat us the same way and do the same way as well. So I don't really get caught up in the politics like that.
Hold one second, Mays, because I want to make sure we bring in our brother Ian. Because I have Ian Dunlap, Mays Jackson, Terry Shropshire. We're really working on KPIs, Mays. We really are working to educate this community on understanding these finances. Because what we don't want to do is get in these politics. I quote Ian all the time when people start recommending stocks that are paying dividends. Now, I had to do some research on that. And Ian said they paying a dividend because they're running a bad company. He said Apple ain't got to pay one. He said, and it's still going up. Welcome, Ian. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for having me on, Mays. How are you, my brother? I'm from Indiana, so I'm familiar with the territory you're talking about. Terry, how are you? I'm glad to be here with you, gentlemen.
What's up? What's up? I'm a Buckeye man, so I'm from the Midwest, you know, the Big Ten country, man. So I know what it is.
I appreciate it.
And my family is from Marion, Indiana, so that's where my mom and family come from. We're Marion, Muncie, and then Richmond.
Okay, yeah, I'm from East Chicago, Indiana, so I was a stone's throw away from the South Side. I appreciate you.
Got it, for sure. What's up? Welcome.
So 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. How have you observed this transformation of this uprising, Ian? I asked Mays something similar, and I want to get your perspective. Obviously, you're in the markets, but you're also in the psychological behavior of the markets and our community. Yeah. What should we know, and what lens in particular should we be placing on this?
From a macro level, this is what happens when you are underfinanced, undereducated, and you're not given enough opportunity. With everyone being out of work, everyone is frustrated. So they're running out into the streets to show their angst. And when we initially first talked, the thing that we talked about was the finances, but if these things don't happen earlier, we don't teach our kids earlier, the world is kind of pushed against us. And we have to come together to equip our children, our little cousins, our grandchildren, and give them the information. Because I truly believe after this, the world will never be the same. And I always said, whenever the world gets a flu, man, we are put down and we get sick for a long period of time financially. And then I think Corona just highlighted that, how much we need to stick together and band together and share this information with one another. And now, coming upon, 100 years of Black Wall Street, I heard Brother Mays talking about what's going on in Tulsa. We have to stick together more than ever to share our resources and not have ego, and to share freely so we all can win together as a community. But this is what happens when you are undereducated, you don't get enough opportunity, and then a global pandemic happens at the same time.
Mm. And that's interesting. I mean, you were talking about the Black Wall Street and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then Rosewood, and then we have Rondo in St. Paul, yep. Next to Minneapolis. So then the history has to be our teacher. What did we do right in those particular areas? I know those are not the only ones, but let's point those three areas out, and let's thank the late great John Singleton for making that movie Rosewood and bring it to the screen, so we have something to look back on and see it in real time. But what did we do right that we can replicate today that we did 100 years ago?
A combination is what we're doing right now. Like, Black men have to sit down and we have to lead. Brother Bronson, I appreciate you so much. We have to share this information. Now, we understand the systemic part of racism. Let's not address that part because that's imminent. We already know that's there. But it's up to us to share in our communities and lead as men first by doing the actions that we need to do in order to have financial freedom, and then sharing without ego. Because we know how it is. Some of us may do well, but hey, if someone else who is a quote unquote competitor asks for help, we may say, I may not help that brother. He's still Black. He still needs your help. And that's the one thing I love about investing. If I get into Apple and it's a good company, Brother Munson, you get in, Terry, you get in, Mays, we get in, we can all party together and celebrate together. It's a win-win game. But we have to stop having this friction, which has been passed down for hundreds of years amongst each other, so we can help each other. Because I'll tell you personally, and I'm sure it's the same for you. I've helped more people these past 6 months than I probably have the last 5 years. Absolutely, because more people are in need of help and services and assistance. So we have to band together and share our blueprints with each other. The things is actually working in real time so we can band together and help each other out.
Okay, that's what's up. Mr. Steve?
No, I think when we talk about this, Ian, I think it's a fear factor. Nobody wants, and I was talking to the CEO of First Independence Bank, Black bank out of Detroit, Kenneth Kelly, and transparency. We have to ask corporate America for transparency. And one of the things he was like, everybody should buy some stock in each of these companies, and we should start showing up at shareholders meetings. What do you think about that as a philosophy so that we can have it as a call to action for all of us now? I know it was part of what Push was doing, but what do you think about that, gentlemen?
We have to. I mean, we've seen that there's power in numbers. So if we all band together, go to these meetings, we ask for transparency. We know what the revenue looks like. We know what the payouts look like. Now we can have a voice. I'm gonna be very honest with all of you. Very few of us show up to our churches, let alone to shareholders meetings. So one action will lead to another. If we just share up here and have dialogue with each other, you may be able to get 60 people to show up to these meetings. And if we begin having dialogue, we can change some of the policies that are happening inside while we're profiting from these companies.
Can I go backwards then for just a second? Because Brother Ian and Brother Steve and Brother Terry, sometimes I think that there is the assumption or the presumption that we all understand that world out, even the concept of outside of your 401k, opening it up, looking at it, saying, hey, I've done better, etc. And I know we have an advanced audience, but even some of the more sophisticated people that I know don't necessarily always understand that concept. And I think the other thing that I think, even because I think this stocks and buying is a great opportunity, but I think one of the things we have to talk about is how do we break down those walls of being willing to share and understand that information. I'm gonna give you a real quick example. Every time, my brother Munson is the perfect example of always sharing, right? All the time. And every time I call him like I'm starting over, right? I call him, I'm like, brother, I got this idea and I'm thinking and I'm selling. He's like, when are we doing it? Right? And I think that we have to get to a comfort level with each other and get into a process of working together where we've got some wins where people can see the benefits of it. Because I think that, quite frankly, I almost enter every room, I'm being straight up, I enter every room competitively with almost everybody in the room looking like, if you in my lane, I got to figure out a way to get to jockey in a lot of cases. Now I'm starting to get more secure in that, but I do think that we have to figure out that 100 years or 400 multiple years, all of the years that it has been put upon us, we got to get to a point where we even have that dialogue where we say, brothers, let's work together and get it done. Now, maybe that's the Atlanta thing, because for Chicago, I live in the city of hate, so trying to get brothers to get to work together is way, if I can get them to be in the room without, then so getting to that, but I just wonder, how do we get to breaking those barriers down?
Well, I'll just speak for me, Mays. We've got to get to principle versus personality. At the end of the day, I trust Ian, I trust Sean Foote, all of them financial advisors, people that actually do that for a living. I'm not interested in trusting myself with my financial future because I think I know something about business. I wouldn't quote Ian if I didn't imagine that he wasn't a professional. See, I think there are far too many of us that professionally don't want to be professionals as it relates to being Black. We want to be kind of Black. We want to be a special Black. We want to be a pet black. And I think we haven't been transparent with our community about truth as it relates to having principles of collective thinking. I don't think that Ian was saying some black men need to be together and share. I think he said black men. So then that's the qualifier. But if we want to be unprincipled people, then we can't survive because we have to stick with principle.
And I'll chime in, especially in the Midwest. So I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana, 5 minutes from Gary, 25 minutes from Chicago. I understand the hate that you're referring to.
Thank
you. That competition comes from no one helping, because no one is on 79 saying, brother, I want to give you something. And if I gain nothing from it, so be it. I'm giving it to you because I love you. I'll tell you personally, when I went back to East Chicago Central and gave the kids what to invest in and gave away money, because some of those kids are in the streets. Every kid, though, that's in the streets is always told by an elder, get off the block, but you never give them anything. I led with cash at first, then advice. They listen. Anytime I've been back to the hood, hey, brother, let me tell you what to invest in. Before I do, let me give you some money, and I'll have an angle. I don't need you to sign up for a service, nothing. We have to give, and then the information spreads. And I know a lot of times we will say we don't know what to invest in, but a lot of us are basketball and football connoisseurs and never play in the NBA, NFL. So if we collectively start to do this, we know if LeBron plays the Sacramento Kings December 25th and it's 75 degrees, we know about how many points LeBron is going to score within a range of 5. We should know the market the exact same way. It's not.
Bam!
We should know the same thing because LeBron already paid, right? So if we do this collectively, and trust me, Cincinnati, Chicago, Gary, St. Louis, those are some tough markets to crack because no one has come in to help. But with technology like this, we can do so at a wide scale. And then they may not listen at first, but we still got to do our job. We still have to give first because I wish I knew this stuff at 10, 12, because other races do. This is nature.
That's
business, investing, real estate. It's covered by the time they get to 8th grade. It's foreign to us. And I've said before, like, I hate that we teach our kids how to play ball at 4, 5, and 6, but wait till they're 25 and 28 to teach them about business. It's too damn late at that point.
Well, that's some wisdom right there because, like you said, the kids, they don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yep.
And so the fact that you came in there not giving handouts, but you were helping out this situation, and then they know that you care, so they're more apt to listen and to take your advice because you come bearing something that's helping out this situation. So obviously you have done something right in life, and then they want to model success, but they're not going to listen to you, coming out there just spewing knowledge and saying, "Look at me, I've done this." So that's some wisdom right there.
But I think there's another question mark for all of us, like, am I going to get something back? I think that's a real cause for us to pause. We're afraid right now. I think that all of us make excuses about not having a black bank account. We just make an excuse. It's not a big deal. Most of us, at least most of the people I know that didn't get PPP, don't have the cell phone number of their banker. Most of the black people that I know that didn't get PPP and have employees don't have a black banker and don't have the cell phone number of their banker. So they don't have banking relationships. And they thought they did, and they might have deposited hundreds of thousands of millions. They don't have that relationship. So when Ian says understanding business, they don't even understand banking. Like, they don't understand accounting.
They don't understand relationships.
And if there are any gifts that we can give going forward, and I'm talking to my clients, Mays and Ian, about it, it's to give constant financial, health, presentation, information, because we've got to increase our skill set at a very rapid pace.
And the great part is there's this amazing website called Google that we can give a lot of this information on and share with. So for those of you who are like, hey, I hear you, brothers. Y'all highfalutin, y'all bougie, you understand? Hop on Google. Almost any basic question you have, put in Google. But it's important that we should, like most of the information on investing, I give away for free. For those of you who watch this, you're going to ask what to invest in. Index fund, so VOO. So VOO is an index fund, which is like an all-star team, then by Apple and Microsoft. You don't have to send me $1, a Christmas card. You don't got to give me no likes on Instagram, nothing. Buy every single month because we are undercapitalized in everything. And the more we take action, this is the great thing about investing. When you take action and you buy, you learn something. And then you can share it with your friend, your cousin, your auntie, your mom. And now, because this is the thing with us, the reason why we don't invest, because we don't know anybody who looks like us that invests. When something works for us, what do? We tell everybody at church, everybody we party with, everyone on Facebook, Instagram. We're going to tell the entire world if it worked or not. We just need to collectively take more action. And like you said, they're not competing against each other. That's a combination of ego and they're not receiving anything out of it, but we have to do the greater good to help each other out and advance each other's movement, even if we don't get anything out of it. That's why I said I love investing because we can all pile into the same thing, all win together and all look brilliant. It's not a zero-sum game. Either Mays won or I won. No, we can all win together. Well, we can be like the 96 Bulls, but not be like Krause and break the team up, right? We can collectively win together if we do that.
Let me go back then, because I would like for you, Ian, first of all. So I think we got some people who probably are thinking, okay, so how do I invest outside of my 401k? How do I get involved? So you just gave me the stocks and the indexes, but one of the things that we don't talk about is, again, a lot of the people who don't invest. And I think what I am responsible for on a daily basis is sharing this information with our audience and informing them. And as people call and ask questions, they say, well, man, Mays, I heard Ian on the show. I was watching you last night. And, I do think I need to invest. And I haven't because I really don't know anybody. Mm-hmm. Where does a person start and how do they measure returns? And I'll give you just a quick, in my game, a lot of times I look at the return on investments very short term, in a short-term manner when it comes to cash, right? I used to be able to throw a party, I could get my money back, make 100% on the money. Yeah. Now, when somebody says you're going to make a return of 3, 5, 7%, I'm saying to myself, that doesn't seem, how do you know and how do you get involved?
So the easiest way to get involved is a simple app called Robinhood. You can go to robinhood.com. So if you don't have a smartphone, you can go to the site. It's absolutely free. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. So it's an easy way if you've never invested before to start there. Now, in terms of return, an index fund is going to get you anywhere from low end 8% return to 15%. Now, I've got people into Microsoft, Apple, VOO, other stocks at great prices. You guys can go look at my Instagram. Some people are up 60% with me this year, post-March, right? But to the 100% return mentality, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to just speak directly to you because we from the same soil, right? Well, we both from the mild sauce capital, right? So if you flip and get 100% return is still not enough because you're broke plus. If you take $5,000 and turn it to 10 grand, it's still not enough. What we need to do is build and have gradual returns so then we can turn over to our kids, our grandchildren. Because what if our grandmothers would have been invested or allowed to invest into the market at that time and pass that wealth on generationally in over a 50-year horizon? Now as a family, we're up 2,000%. You brothers know, like I know, when this pandemic hit, it wasn't just us helping our household. There's more cousins that popped up in the last 60 days for me who needed help than ever. And I was willing to help, but we have to look and see, okay, great, we need the money working for us. It's only a certain amount of hours we can put in a day, especially if we have a family. And then if we're going to buy from these big companies, why are we not profiting from them? Black culture moves every company. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Microsoft, Apple, everyone. We are the bottom line mover for a lot of companies, but don't want to profit from them. Same thing with Nike. Everybody in Chicago, shout out to all my Midwest people, have every pair of J's that have came out since 91, and they are all retro remakes, right? Very few of us own Nike stock. 10-year period, we could have been up 300-400%, flipping money and not having to do anything for it while wearing the product. Because when you wear a person's product, you are wearing a logo and endorsement for them for free.
Right.
The other thing, Mays, I think that we say we're investors, and yet we want to pull the money out of the company that day. That's not an investment. That's like having a babysitter. You know, I run to the bank, pull my money out each day to make sure it's there. You can't be thinking about wealth generation for a future generation if it's for you right now. I mean, you have to have the principle of saving. Otherwise, it makes no sense. At the end of the day, you're not an investor. So for me, I think it's the cultural understanding that investors are in the market. They're not out of the market. They're in the market. They understand diversification, and that's a reason to use a professional. It's not what you do every day. So as it grows past 5 or 10,000, you might have a homie or your brother or your aunt that you loan 5 or 10,000, and you're not getting 100% of that. You might not get it back at all. You're not going to knock her off. But if you put it in Microsoft, it's their job to start working for you.
Yeah, I tell every person, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, are you a better entrepreneur than the CEO of Apple? For me, I'm going to say no. As great as I think I am, I'm not. So I'm having him work for me. Over the last 10 years, Apple's up 1,200%. Most businesses are not growing at a 1,200% clip in a decade, let alone 20 years. So all immediate cash that you need, you got to extract from your personal business. But we have to have some money working for us because we've all been there. Had a business, you want to pass it on to a kid. Kid's not interested in the business. Can't get anybody in the family to work the business or help, even though the business is working, right? We've all been there. You're trying to pull man in with you. Man don't want to do it. Let Steve Jobs' creation, Tim Cook, Google, Netflix, NVIDIA, Zoom is another great company that took off this year. Lean heavy into technology or in index funds. We can have the money work. And I'll tell every business owner, clients and customers do not care about us. They care about their needs. So we got to take 20% of the business capital and put it into the market. Because I ask everyone, if I can walk you right in to Facebook and they'll give you a grant for your business, would you take it? Everyone says, hell yeah, I'll take it. Then why not put some of your money into those same stocks that would pay you and would be a better employee than the employees that we actually pay and have on payroll? But once we do it, it makes a lot more sense if you can show your cousin, hey, bro, I did this and I put 100 in last year and I made 25,000. Now we'll get more people to do it. Too many of us that are Black are approaching investing from an intellectual standpoint, like we're in class, and no one wants to hear that theory. My brother, you know this, especially in Chicago. Don't nobody want to hear that. What happened? Did this work for you or not? Otherwise, leave me alone. Let me go about my life. It's more direct in the Midwest. So if we actually have the results, we can get people to catapult and actually take action. But we want people to take the action that we're not taking ourselves, and that's unfair. That's why I tell people, I'm only telling you to do what I actually do myself every single day.
So I think the transparency for us is going to be a real ask, Mays. I think, Ian, we're going to have to ask Apple to begin to showcase any effort to build businesses in our community. But if we don't ask, which I think is really key for us to communicate with these corporations, we're going to miss this moment.
You know, Munson, I would agree with you on that. And I think that one of the things is they're trying to dictate the terms right now. One of the things that I've seen is that they're all saying, hey, we're going to give this much amount of money to Black Lives Matter or to some charitable organization, and then may want to return to the ways of doing old things. One of the things that I thought might be a unique opportunity business-wise is to really re-examine the whole concept of multicultural marketing. Because one of the things that we've seen with this is that when we did business with corporations, there was a merging, and one of the things that has happened as our cultures have merged, the opportunity for Black businesses have shrunk. And so I would love to see, as we go to corporations, not just asking and not just taking the corporate donation from the civic side, but really going in and saying invest in these businesses, and then putting Black people in control of budgets in those locations that allow us all to then build upon that network that you talk about.
Well, I have a bigger issue because at the end of the day, the numbers are real bad. Because the stock options, see, I'm all about KPIs right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk conceptual. Like I hate conceptual talk. There's no way to measure conceptual talk. If you're giving to nonprofits, that's philanthropy. I just want to make sure if you give something to Black Lives Matter, that's philanthropy. I don't want you to say you gave to the movement, because that did not move the employees and we've got to be real clear, particularly now when we say Apple, how many African Americans hired, working, and are vested and get stock options at Apple? My issue with them not hiring our young people is based on that. Because when they pass out those stock options and they're vested at Google, at Microsoft, I don't want the number to still be 5 like it was last year. And we're talking about a pipeline.
Now, this is a deeper conversation, but we as a community have to start directing our kids to be in professions that are viable, that will give us that. Now, that puts the responsibility back on us. Now, I don't know if we want to talk house business out in public, but there's 2 parts to this. This is a system, asking it to change or expecting it to change for us. You guys know that's not going to happen. But if we band together and drive into certain industries, we can have a better chance of doing so. But that's why you said, like, even owning shares and going to the meetings, because the truth be told, in corporate America, they only know to give to Black Lives Matter because that's the only movement they know. When they go home, come on, baby. But because they don't know where else to, come on, since you want to be on camera. If we don't go to those shareholders meetings, my love, you can't do this right now. We have to start to be in those meetings together so we can make changes. They don't know us. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, Silicon Valley does not care about us. They can exist without us. So that's why we have to, it's all about teamwork. Because if we show up in numbers, we've seen and we talked about this previously, if we stop spending for 3 months, look how much it affect corporate. It's been 2 months. Imagine if we band together in every major corporation, we say, hey, we at least want to have a discussion. And here's how many shares we own together as a group. They're going to listen. But we got to take the action first.
Yeah, and the other thing, following up on that thought, what I'm sharing, Mays, is it's all about transparency. If you're in Chicago and you and I don't know the president of Goupon's, or we haven't met with the president of United, the Black president, there's a Black president at United and the CEO of United, then that's a problem. And we've got to ask for those meetings. We've got to have discussions at the right level that includes our community. I don't want to hear about the pipeline. I'm a little 100 on skill set. The fact that we're not rapping about what skill sets our community should have means the rappers hate our community. Nobody wants to say it. Like, how can you direct our community not to go in the fields and move? Because there needs to be another migration. They can't stay in the Rust Belt. They're going to have to move. And we need to tell them where they can move. So that is a clear indication. I'm with you on skill set acquisition. And we've got to tell our kids, no, if you can't sell the skill you're going to pay for with your college degree, move on. And that's hard conversation because our children are taught to, well, you'll feel good, you can be anything. Not now you can't. Not with AI. Terry?
No, I was going to see if Mr. Jackson, Mr. Dunlap wanted to tackle that. But
I think Munson put a period on the end of that.
I really wasn't. I was kind of going over there to Ian and as much as what we know about even being hired at Google, roughly 35% of those jobs don't require any engineering. That's a fact. Those sales jobs for selling ads at Google don't require the same. You don't have to be an engineer. Got to get in and be able to speak tech and to be able to be liked and prepared. What happens is we are not prepared for those interviews when we walk in to even have tech jargon to make a connection with some guy.
Yeah, but if we're going to discuss it, is that Google's issue or is that a Black issue that we're not talking about in our community and in our households? I'm not
100. Hold on. That's why your brother started off with, if they're not rapping about it, we can't be about it. I'm 100 with you. I'm 100 that faith leaders have to say it. I'm 100 the messages are not getting through. I'm 100 with you, Ian. I'm 100 that everybody has abdicated what the real job is for us as it relates to our kids. I think you're 100. Like, you're not telling your child it's science and math, then you're missing the boat.
And in this era, because I mean, when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, there was no Google, right? So I'm a little bit biased. But now parents like Khan Academy, YouTube, there's so many, like all of us grew up in the era pre-social media, pre-Google, pre-YouTube.
Pre-internet.
Pre-internet to hunt for this information. You literally can just Google coding tutorials, coding games, STEM games. They even even if you guys go to and put in paper trading or paper investing, you can practice investing for absolutely free. It's like a video game. In 85, 87, 88, in Calumet City, Chicago, Gary, Chicago, that was not an option. So just even if you take 5 minutes a day, and even how I taught Xander, because he wanted to be on camera, then got shot. Even what I teach him, here's what an asset is. Here's what a liability is. It's literally one lesson a day. If you see green on the chart, it means the market is going up. If you see red, it means it's going down. We don't have to overcomplicate it because kids will get it, but they also are watching our actions every single day. So as an entrepreneur, I can't tell him to get up early and be diligent and be disciplined if he doesn't see me doing it. He watches me do it, and then he wants to imitate. But as leaders, we also have to give a lot of this stuff away for free because I don't know about everyone else, but in the era we grew up in, there wasn't a lot of parents who even knew. They were just trying to make it. So these kind of conversations and then having a curriculum to give out once again for free and let the parents and kids do. Now, if they don't do anything with it, at least we can say we've done our part. But a lot of this information has to be put out and say, here, these are the sectors you need to go into. For everyone else watching, it's all about taking action. If I can tell you anything else, whatever you want to do, if you put enough work into it and time into it, you will be able to manifest some, even selling, even because a lot of that going to school is having the connections to get to the Valley. But then you need money to be able to even stay in the Valley before you can interview. So it's like a lot of, and that's the one thing I can say I do love about Spelman, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta. They do stick together and they will look out for one another in AUC, like nothing else. Like the AUC is almost a gang. I feel like they'll look out for each other like crazy. As a community, I think we have to band together a lot more to share this information for free and action steps to get to where we need to get, because we're very far behind.
And knowing what to ask. I mean, literally, you think about Chicago public schools, the lack of notebooks at every household, Mays. Literally, we can count up in our community and measure. Because in order to get on Khan Academy, the kids have to get there somehow. And I think that what we're saying is that's just demand. That's a demand. That's something that we shouldn't even allow Mark Zuckerberg to believe that he shouldn't want that for our kids too. But not told by him, it's the idea of DJ Nice, a friend, Laz Alonso, a friend, all a Howard alum, all beginning to say collectively, here are our new demands based on the 20 billion. And we're going to do a report because I need to get with you, Ian, so we can kind of do a report. So people can know based on a report how much these top 100 Fortune 500s related to consumption. So kind of like Nike, how much we are of their market, Apple, Microsoft, because we use Skype, we use Word, we use Netflix, and then begin to think about what our KPIs and our relationships with these corporations need to be. Because if we're not going to tell them, we understand you made $20 billion off of Instagram and we were X percentage, then we're still going to be lost. Because we're sharecroppers on Instagram.
I think we're sharecroppers in business in general. In the grand scheme of things, when you look at with our collective total. But what I do think is when you talk about, like in Chicago, the lack of iPads or tablets in each one of those places, I think that we all got a job, right? So I think that my job is essentially I don't do business like from that standpoint. I am an entrepreneur. I am a businessman. I'm in the business of trying to make money, but also to raise awareness.
Okay, so but hold on. One thing I think that is a language that we all have to understand. There are 3 words to our community winning, Maze. We, our, and us. If I walk into the idea that I want Apple to do business with me, that's already the problem. Because it's easy to pay me. When we say pay we, that's a different kind of check. So I can't look at my success and say, it's not about me. I can retire, sell assets, chill out, lay down, say, you know what, I did it. I've been at it 21 years, I'm good, I'm chilling. You don't stay in the mission for you eat. We gotta get to the we. And I mean, I'm just saying collectively, it has to be a we right now and a us and an our, because the fact that we don't have an our is how they divide us.
I think here we talk about what's in it for the Black people, right? And I think in this conversation that there are pillars to our community and to the success of our community. I think, and each one of us have a role in assessing that pillar. So, for instance, when you talk about the lack of tablets in schools, that to me is part of our education pillar. That should also be communicating with our business pillar to say, this is the demand when it comes to our children. This is how we move forward collectively. I just think that in this, I think everyone has their role in this mix. And I think that when we talk about the messaging that goes to corporate America, my concern is that we don't take the shortcut deal. And that's why I talk about not just accepting the philanthropic donation, but really saying, okay, what is the ask for Apple? What is the ask for each one of these people? Not just economically, but how can they participate in the Marshall Plan of rebuilding our community based on our economic contribution to what they do, to their success.
But the reason I was inviting Ian to the conversation is because if we're not shareholders, it's even more silent. I mean, I don't want you, young person, to fill your closet. I want young people to feel like I went to a shareholders meeting because I heard Ian Dunlap say it, and we like people go when they invest with Warren Buffett. They actually go and they feel like they're in a movement and they want to be there to be a part of that movement. But when we think about it,
but then, Munson, where do the young people hear Ian Dunlap if their parents don't know? And so again, I guess that's where, again, making that connect, because I don't.
So I'm glad you said that, because you're in Chicago. So here's where we go. Because see, I want you to understand, I always got a plan. That's kind of like the attorney asks you, now, where were you last night? And you lie. Well, he already knew where you were. He just want to make sure that you lied. When you think about, you're in Chicago and we ask Chance the rapper, we say, hey, Chance, put it in. When Frank Orange made the song Nike, that was an ad for Nike. So yeah, you're there. You got Ian. Let's get Chance on and let's have a conversation about everybody going to the shareholders meeting at Nike. That's a movement. That's a movement. We can decide that we want at least 1,000. We don't need 1,000,000. At least 1,000 young brothers to go with us to Nike. And then we can invite LeBron and everybody else that got a shoe to meet us there. But if we're not going to say those are our objectives, then we're just talking in the wind.
And then we also have to buy into the actual business to be able to sit in on the business meetings. Like Terry, I can't tell you what to do with your business and your venture if I don't have any money investing in it. You'll be like, brother, I like you, but what to do with my business. But now if I'm spending with you, you may be a little bit more inclined to read. So that's why like that approach is not an end all be all. Is investing in the market going to end institutional racism? No. Right. And I know that the plan for reparations has been put out, and we can talk about that if you want to. The tough part about reparations, though, is that you are asking America to bankrupt America to pay us back. That's an unwinnable problem, right? So they're not going to give everything that's owed. Great. We can take these steps to go into one company and begin to have a voice, however, because we're unseen. And if we have to start voting with our dollars, and I think we should vote in the elections, especially local. But if the corporations have a say so over what the politicians do.
Oh yeah.
So we have to at least pick a company and say, hey, I bought the product. I also own some shares. Hey, we need to have a discussion about some of the things that could be done for the communities to give back. And that's why you've seen Bezos takes a stand on Black Lives Matter. Do you really think in the grand scheme of things, that's the number one objective on his list? No, but he knows if he loses maybe 0.5% of people that are devout racists, he'll gain 4% of the Black people who's like, oh, I like Bezos because he put the banner on the site. It's business as usual, but we have to come to the table prepared to play. I know people are going to say, what if I don't have money to invest? The J's cost more than the shares of the stock. Now we're all kids. At some point, we had the Nikes, right? Nikes were cheap. J's are now $290 and $300. The stock isn't that high. Go ahead,
brother. So here's me, right? Because I'm trying to make sure I'm in the right space. Who are we trying to get to the meeting? The people that are already buying, that are already in the market, or are we trying to convince the young people to not buy and then come to the meeting? Because again, I think there's a disconnect. Us saying, hey, we want to bring 1,000 brothers to the meeting, unless we're talking about 1,000 brothers that are already investing in that business.
I want us to stop spending. So anytime we spend our money, we take our money out of, and your business owner, you know this. If I spend my money with Apple or Nike and I buy a consumer product, I've taken money out of my castle that feeds my kid to give to another family.
My brother.
Go ahead.
So 100%, I'm here with you. Who are we trying to bring to that meeting? Because the person that's making the decision that you're talking about is probably not coming to the meeting, and that's who we need to get. Or is that not who we want to be at the meeting?
So I don't believe that, Maze. I've been in enough malls. When we talk about, we say that we're great consumers, like that's a badge of honor.
I'm not debating that. What I am asking you is, who is it? I think what we're saying makes sense practically, 100%.
I'm saying young and old.
Because
the elders aren't investing either.
But if they haven't been educated on the process of investing and the reason that we are consumers, how do we move them to that point?
That's all. We're not even saying that. This is a very small experiment. This is $300 experiment. I don't know what Nike's trading for right now. I'm sure we can look and see right quick what it's trading for. So that's not a real thing for me when I think about it. But when you think about Nike, what's Nike trading for now, Ian?
$95 today.
So $95. You couldn't have got the new release Jordans for less than probably $200. You could add 2 shares of Nike for the rest of your life and pass it down to 2 generations. So
are you having a rapper say that, or are you saying it? Because how is it getting from your mouth to the person that you're trying to convince not to be the hot guy walking to the club, the high school, or whatever, to convince them to make that move? So again, who's getting them the message to say, hey,
Ray Mays, don't get out of it, because see, I don't want you to.
But I have the answer to it.
Thank you.
Before we can go to Meek Mill and Chance and G Herbo, we got to do the shit. Because then we can, like, I'm telling you, when I go to a kid and say you need to invest, I do this. Here. Okay, now let's get into the bank account. Here. Then they listen. Before we can get to any rapper, it got to start with us. And then, okay, and I'm not saying I don't want them to wear pro kids because they still going to get the J's anyway. I'm just saying, hey, brother, if you buy some shares, we can collectively look fly and have the money, and we can have some change come about at the same time. Then, even like the Buy Back the Block movement, Ross started talking about that first, and then people actually started putting funds together to buy back the block, especially here in Houston, right? So we have to all collect, because it's not just one person. We can't look for a black savior to say, we got to, each one of us have to do it collectively. But the reason why, and I'm gonna say this to every elder, kids don't want to listen to us because they can look at us and see you're not doing the shit. They don't want to hear that. But if you show them and you like, well, I can get the J's and these. Like when I went to EC Central and I gave the money away, they got the money from Cash App, went on Robinhood and bought stocks while I was there. Like no, but adults talk down to the kids. This is what you need to do. And then I'll ask you, well, are you doing it? And most adults say, no, that's in any area of business. You know this. Like most business owners don't take enough action, but they'll tell a kid, you need to be in business. Kids need to see the result, but if they see it, the only reason they look up to rappers is because rappers have some of the things that they want. If we show them this is a way out, then they will collectively start to take that action as well and have the Jordan 5s and the 11s, right? We have
No, do the other part. What happens when you got 1,000 at the meeting? You kind of say, hey, we got 1,000 people. We want them to meet the designer of the Jordans. All of a sudden, you got a new movement because our behavior is new and it's different. So I'm saying to you, Mays, because you're in Chicago, and the ask is, okay, I know I can count on Ian. I can say, well, Ian, why don't you go ahead and grab 10 shares? I'll grab 10 just so we can talk about it. And then each of us sponsor 10 boys. That's simple. I mean, that's not even like, that's just to get to 100. That's just to quickly get to 100. And I know I got at least 10 friends.
I'm slow. Make it plain for me. That's all I needed to hear. Yeah. I'm not understanding. I wasn't understanding how does a guy from the street go from that we walked to a high school and said, hey, brother, come with us. And I just wanted to understand who is our audience and who are we bringing to this meeting? So if we're going to buy shares collectively as part of our initiative to bring our young people up, and we're going to go and give them all a share and say, come go with us to the Nike meeting because you can now see your voice. It just has to be a process. And I understand. It just felt like I didn't understand what was the process that was happening.
Yeah, and I'm not talking from a theoretical level, but you also know when kids are on the streets, my argument is take away the systemic part, right, and lack of opportunity. A lot of the reason kids are on the streets because they have nobody else tell them how to get money anywhere else. There's some kids I know that have Shopify stores and they make $200 a month. They can make more in the streets, but they'd rather make the money legally. They're not going to starve though. Especially, yeah.
Oh, sorry. But just so we're talking about it, because we're talking about the kids, and I just want to make sure we're thinking it out. And we talk. I think it's a great conversation. I think part of the challenge that what I was trying to ask before as a young person is probably looking for an immediate gratification return, right? So we have to explain to them, because the guy that's doing the Shopify store, he's getting that money and then he's re-upping, but he's using some of it. Mm-hmm. We're trying to convince that child to leave the money in the market and say, hey, pass your Nike shares on and watch it grow. So I think when we're talking, we just got to make sure that we're connecting with the kids and making the messages congruent.
And I think even when Ian was saying young and old, we're not even just saying kids. It's kind of like you're deciding, let's all take a trip. And we're saying, instead of saying the trip this year, we're going to take our wives and family to Cancun, we're saying we're going to take our wives and family to the Nike shareholders meeting so that we can actually participate in the process in a company that we now own.
And then also, investing does not have to be slow. I'm gonna show you an example. And this isn't a plug for me. This is one of my members. I'm gonna zoom in, right? This is her return, Lady Dawn, in 2 months. So when everyone was panicking during Corona, she has a gain of 103%, right? So that's why I say giving the information away for free, just invest in Apple from March until today. You can be up 30%. This isn't a big company. It's not an unknown company. This isn't crypto, but that's where the experience is like, and I'm sure you feel it, Brother May, the same way. When you're like, hey, I'm in business, you should be in business, and people don't listen, it's almost hurtful because you know what it's done for your life, right? So it's the same kind of thing. I think people just need to see what's possible, because even slow growth, when they're like, well, you can only get 8 or 12%, that's true in indexes. In technology, Zoom is up 70% this year. But we don't have anyone saying, hey, buy this without giving me something. For 5 years, I gave all away my investing picks for free, and I still do on social media every week. Buy this, buy that, because I'm building trust that way, right? So I think if people start to get into the game, because the kids are interested anyway, they'll play 2K all day. If they can play 2K and make some money at the same time and get 15%, and here's the great part, kids are a lot less fearless than their adult parents. They'll take action a lot faster. They won't ask as many questions. They'll be like, hey, I like Nike, I buy J's, I'll buy it. Great, cool. I'll take action on it. So, but I think the reason why we think people won't take action on it, because as a community, we don't do it together. And if we held each other accountable and just say, hey, brother, we all gonna put in 100 a piece this month in a Nike, let's see what it does in 2 months. Man, it would be a hell of a movement. It'd be a hell of, because we'll go spend 100 on anything else but investing.
I think it requires education, brothers. Honestly. I think
my point at 100 Mays, and I'm just saying, let's just take it off the kids. We've got to begin to say, as brothers, we're saying 1,000 of us are gonna go. I hadn't talked to Ian about this. I'm just saying, no, but because I've seen you get a whole group of brothers together. So I'm saying, if you just took and got the Sigma brothers together in Chicago, that's at least 100.
And even with education, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes we want education as Black people to avoid taking action. I'm gonna be real. Nobody read no 300-page sex book before we got to having sex. We didn't pay attention to sex. So I'm talking directly to the kids. Like, the kids are not going to do a ton of research. How much more we can, so this homework for everybody. Go type in any company and type in Google, Nike, Facebook, and type in 10-year return. It will baffle you how much these companies are up. Some of these companies are up 2,000%, companies that we use every single day, how much they're up. And I'm not telling them to buy companies we never heard of. We all heard of Microsoft and Apple and Facebook and Google and even Square, PayPal. These are publicly traded companies, some of the biggest on earth over a 10-year period. Like even Tesla. Everyone thinks Tesla's a dope car. Tesla is up 400% in the last 2 years.
When you watch it rolling out news report, and Mays, I'm just working, and we're just theoretical here, but I think it's the type theory that we need to make some real movements on real soon. Because as a leader in the community, particularly in Chicago, I'm in Atlanta, we've got to make some movements on some of these companies that allow our community. If you drive a Tesla and you're Black, we suggest you buy at least a share.
I'm suggesting let's make it a movement. Let's educate the people. Let's tell them. I'm saying if we get up every morning and we say, fellas, I'm going to take your lead on it. And I'm going to say, if we're saying that our movement is to buy a share in these companies that we do because we're going, I'm going to mobilize people to go with us to those meetings. Tell me what the plan is. Again, I don't have to be, Brother Ian is the economic expert, as we talked about before. And if Brother Ian says, and we trust Brother Ian, as he's been giving us information for free, we take that information and we say, let's move on. I'm down with that.
You see, one of the things that I love even better than Brother Ian is if Ian wasn't there, you can do and research yourself. You don't have to say, he told me that it was 95. This isn't one of those. We only have to put the responsibility on that person. Our people can put the name of the company in Google and put 52-year high, 52-year low, 10 years, and we'll write an article on it, Mays. We'll actually do that. But what I want to say, and then clearly I'm not trying to discount, obviously, Ian, but some of these facts we're trying to ignore. We are working really hard to ignore the fact that people don't want to know the price of gold. People don't want to know the price of Nike. Then why are you buying something and you don't even know the price of the company? Like we can't volunteer to be dumb.
Yeah, my initiative is I just want people to be able to easily spot a good company as quickly as they can to spot that Curry is a good player, Kawhi is a good player, LeBron and Giannis is a good player. That's it. Because we move culture in every sense of the word, from young to old. So as quickly as we know, we can go, any of us can go on any court in America and in 5 minutes know if a kid in 7th grade got potential to be in the NBA. We got that from thousands of hours of watching Michael kill in the United Center, right? Watching Patrick Ewing back in the day, watching LeBron now, the same thing. And it's the same movement in the market. I asked every person when I went to Central, I was like, who's a hotter artist, Drake or Dave East? Kudos to Drake, Dave East, no slight to you. But everyone's like, Drake's hotter. Okay, Drake is like Apple. Dave East is like a startup company. Drake is way bigger. Dave is here. Okay, great. Investment number one, Apple, great. Who's hotter, Cardi B or MC Lyte? I love MC Lyte. Shout out to the queen. Cardi B's hotter right now. That's Microsoft. Bottom two, let's get moving. That's all we have to do. And if we take action together, I'll do the training for free, and I don't want anything other than to help the people. But you guys can just Google what are the top 5 tech companies in the United States that are publicly traded. They'll pop up on Google. CNN, CNBC, Kiplinger, Barron's Magazine, they'll tell you absolutely free, and we can pile our money into them.
We'd love to have you on the show to talk about that, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yes.
Now, I just want us to kind of get a conversation going about how we collectively can make some new movements, Mays, particularly given your access, because I think it's going to take more individuals like yourself, obviously Brother Ian's in Houston, and we've got to set some shareholder meetings as our objectives and ownership of stock and knowledge of stock. You know, I don't know, maybe it's 10, Ian. Everybody needs to at least know 10 or how to track 10 good ones. Yeah. Identify 10. I mean, we've got to have a 10X philosophy about all of our financial knowledge.
You know, I think with that 10X philosophy, though, and I'm gonna go back to communication. I think that we don't have to educate people to the point where we have to teach. I think you teach them in a weekly basis, but we still keep moving them forward, and they understand how they're growing. So the way I would approach this is, Brother Ian, we decide that we're gonna create this movement of financial wealth and financial excellence and this whole concept. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask brothers to commit to $100, to commit to investing $100 collectively, and that giving them this ownership towards going towards these meetings. And in the process, we show them how that $100 gives them that access. And it almost becomes sort of like a class that we bring people along, but at the same process, we then use them as part of our collective voice. And then you look at them and you say, here's your corporate responsibility. So when we go to the meeting, corporate responsibility says that when you do your philanthropic giving, here are the organizations that you need to give to in our communities. And that is why the social service community then comes in. You explain to them the connection. See, I think that, I don't know if I'm not effectively saying this, but I think people don't always practice, and it's not just kids. It is, if you never learn finance, there's got to be something, a motivator. So just like we said, Chance or a rapper or whoever these people are, just like we saw Envy do with the housing. We've got to figure out a way to connect a community that has been economically undereducated. I am so honored, I swear to God, to be on this conversation and this panel with you all. But when I talk to brothers and sisters every single day, the Black person that is making these, and they are looking at they're living, they're trying to subsistence living. Or even the people who went into those places in those stores, they didn't break in those stores, just not break in. They didn't take because they just wanted to. They
had to.
We are last in all of the 16 economic indicators in Chicago. And I think even that buying those Jordans is their sense of worth in the real world. And I think as we have this conversation, I love that we're having this conversation, but it is us. It is the group of people. And if it's going to move, if you want to move Nike, or you want to move, it is those people that them looking out and seeing our young people that look like them that we've brought to the table. I just feel like we've got to bring our people along. And I think there is the presumption. And quite frankly, in some of the cases, people become fearful to even ask because they're like, hey man, I don't know how to get started. My parents never taught me it. And so if I never learned it, right? And then I enter into a conversation where I want to do better and it is time to make the movement, but everybody's like, well, like, I just think that we have to recognize where our people are, not the elite, not the people that have it, but those people that we need to be the one.
Mays, the only thing I want to say is we don't want to say that our community, because here in Atlanta, how many were standing in line, Terry, when they opened up Georgia?
Standing in line?
Right for the tennis shoes.
Dozens. Packed
on top of each other. They opened tennis shoes, nail salons, and barbershops, and
tattoo places
when they first opened. It wasn't 100 for the Jordans. It was thousands across the state. And my point is, we buy a lot. So the only thing we're saying to our community, Mays, and I think it's kind of like, why not ride the bus? We all know that it's to the benefit of our community. When you think about the boycotts that we've had, this isn't a boycott. This is an investment in yourself, an investment in your future. How do you do that? By buying a piece of stock in a company that you consume something from. That's all we're saying.
I'm not debating that, but I'm saying, I'm not debating. Okay.
I guess how, but we can easily make a 3-minute video tutorial to give out for free. Here's how you do it. Cause like, I know you want to get to the solutions, but if we give them the access to the information and how to do it, I think it'll take that friction, because it sounds scary, but sending the text is actually harder than buying stock on Robinhood. It's much more difficult to actually.
And sip and lean is a lot harder too. At the end of the day.
That's an easy way to do it, but I think you still gotta, I think the person that's sip and lean still has to want to do better. You gotta show them better.
No, he wants to feel better.
Yeah, but if you show them that there's money attached to it, and you know this in the hood, if you show them there's a way to make money, they'll gravitate to it, because that's the biggest pain point, is having a way to make money. Because most people that are in the streets don't want to be in it. They just don't have another option. Even from and that's why I start with talking to kids that are very young. I want to catch them before they go that other route. Often as teachers and parents not knowing the information, a lot of this stuff was hidden from us intentionally.
Yes.
It wasn't accidental that business is not talked about in our households and in our churches. It should be. In every other race, that especially going to college. I mean, I don't know what college you went to, but I'll see you at Phi Beta Sigma. Shout out to all my brothers at Indiana University, because the Sigmas are some of the coolest brothers on earth. I love y'all, right? But you see in other races in school, they talk about it second nature. Hey, we're going to the party. What's your dad up to? My dad's investing in this. My dad bought this business. Hey, can I get a job? Can you connect me? So we still have to have these conversations. It doesn't have to be the only thing we talk about. I just wanted to, in between the love and hip hop conversation and in between LeBron doing well, we got to throw a little bit of business in there so we can all do better financially.
Yeah. And we want to thank Mays for coming by, hanging out with us, Mays. I do seriously want you to participate in the stock and Chance and a few others in Chicago so that we can identify some stocks, and probably a couple there once Ian puts us a list together so that we can really talk about it. Obviously, I don't know how well McDonald's is doing right now in the marketplace, but obviously they're in Chicago. But we really have to make our community understand and just buy what you consume, like just a little bit, and just start.
Well, let me say this. Thank you guys for the opportunity to be here. I'm in. So let me start by saying I'm in. I'm saying that whether it's the fantasy football or stocks club that we do or whatever it is that we all put together. Look, guys, I'm not debating the article. I'm not debating whether our people have the wherewithal. What I try to do is keep it plain, right? Try to break it down so that the small guy can consume it and be able to participate. Because I think if we can get those small guys in, or not the small guys, but if we can get the people who may have had some trepidation, who I ask the questions of the guys that would see you and say, I'm not going to raise my hand. I'm not going to ask a question. And so when you're trying to build this thing and bring those people along and they want to raise their hand and ask a question, right? Because they want to understand. And so understand when I'm talking, I'm usually trying to make sure that people understand so we can bring them along. I appreciate you all. You check me out every day, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 on the WVON morning show. Munson, always a pleasure. The most motivating brother we got out there. Brother, we going to get you on the morning show because I think this fantasy football of stocks will be off the chain.
Listen, you brought a great idea. We should do fantasy football and Madden and educate them while we're playing the games.
Whoa!
I'm saying,
boom,
make it work. That's
boom.
And Terry Shropshire, I'll be looking for you on TMZ because I want Munson to make me a star too. We'll be out. Peace. Thank you.
Ian, we appreciate your time. We don't want to take up more of your time, but really want to come up with some KPIs so that we can have something that our community really gets as action steps. I think it's been a minute coming. Obviously, many of these corporations, publicly traded, are working to make some moves. But how can we make moves with them and actually get our community involved? So we appreciate you.
I appreciate you and Brother Mays. And even for everyone watching, I think it's very important to highlight, we can have these conversations. We may not see eye to eye, but we don't have to fight. We don't have to have contention. And at the end, I think we got to a great solution, like fantasy football and finances or Madden money. I mean, Terry said it.
No, and
right there.
Right. And I think that right now, more than any time in the modern era, since the 60s, I think there is an appetite and people are more receptive to discovering new avenues about moving forward and obtaining and generating wealth. And so I think that there's just, I just sense that people are looking for answers more than now. So they're more willing to listen to the things that they ignored in the past. So I think this is a time to make it happen now, like now.
Yeah.
And this window of opportunity is wide open, but it's not going to stay open.
I agree.
The stock market is going to stay open.
I'm sorry?
I was teasing. I say the stock market's going to stay open.
Well, that will, but I don't think that. I just think that this is in certain times. Some things are happening. I think that people are more receptive. They're like, this thing is just going to keep on happening. If we don't make changes now, we're going to have another George Floyd in 6 months or in a year. Yeah. We're going to be back to marching in the streets. We're going to be back to the same old thing. This is like, I think that people are really looking for answers, sustainable answers, viable answers to the problems that we're facing right now. So I think that having you, speak to our folks is really very key right now to helping us move forward, because we have the energy, we have the desire. Now it's time to educate and move. Like stick and move, like Muhammad Ali, stick and move.
Yeah, and if nothing else, these last 2 months, just from us not spending our money and how much it is affected and hurt companies, there is power in numbers. We don't even have to have like a violent approach. Even if we just band together and say, hey, we're not buying from these companies, and this is why. Trust me, any company, even in the community, if you have a local corner store and the entire community says, we're not buying from you anymore, the owner is going to come out to the community and say, please tell me what I can do to make it better. Because you're crippling that person's economy. So I think that, like you said, people have an appetite for it. I think what Mays is trying to drive home, we got to find a way to make it appealing. But I think if we can edge in with the video games and fantasy football and rap talk and blend it all in, I think we'll have a hit.
Yeah, start with what you know. And I think, and we've had examples of this. This has worked before, because I used to be a loyal listener to Tom Joyner. And back when he was friends with Tavis Smiley, they used to take companies, a certain company that may have offended us in some manner or disrespected us in some manner. And he would take his audience and have them all basically boycott that one company. And boy, did they bring that company to the knees, not the next week, not the next month, that very day.
Yeah.
So I've seen examples where this can work. So your point is well taken right now.
Well, Ian, we're going to hop off. We're rolling out news report. Any other things to tell us that we need to be looking out for?
Just love each other. That's the most important thing in this time. Love each other. Find ways to band together, stick together, because we have to stop disagreeing. Like I even said with Brother Mays, we may not saw eye to eye in the beginning, but towards the end, because there was no disrespect, no contention, we actually got to a solution.
Right.
No ego, right? Like that is his friction back and forth trying to get to a great solution is what got us to the resolution and the peak that we needed to be. So just find a way to love each other. And if you guys need anything to help, I'm here to help give you any insight to make the market easier for you. Absolutely free. I love you guys.
How are people able to reach you or to connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at my username is the Master Investor, and then my website is joinredpanda.com. If you go to the site and put in your name and email, I'll send out a tip of the day absolutely for free. So if you log in to the site, I'll send you something newsworthy in your email every day. And it's usually 2 sentences, 3 sentences that'll teach you something, or you don't even have to pay me for anything. So I'm here to help.
Ian Dunbar, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you guys. Appreciate you.
Love you too, man. Peace. Jerry,
Hey.
NASCAR banned the flag.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it this morning. That's, that's a nice gesture. It doesn't really move the needle for me because it really doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, it does. I mean, it's a nice symbolic gesture to say that they were wrong.
72 years.
Huh?
72 years.
Right. It's just very peculiar to me. And I look askance at that, saying to myself, okay, so all of a sudden, after 72 years, they finally had an epiphany that the Confederate flag represents oppression and death to Black people. They finally got it. No, they didn't just get it. Basically, they don't want to get hit with the shrapnel of criticisms that's being levied at so many different institutions, companies, and traditions that this country has celebrated for the past since the beginning or since the Civil War. Just like they're toppling the statues, toppling the statue of Christopher Columbus and other, and people from the Confederacy. And then there's the Marine Corps, the Marines, the military, saying that they're no longer going to allow the Confederate flag to fly on a U.S. military base. Really? I didn't even know. I was in the military. I didn't know that they had that at military Marine bases. So what took it now? I mean, why now? So it just seems a little hollow. It seems like a little bit of just trying to avoid being steamrolled by this momentum that's going across the country, but it's not really enacting any true or lasting changes. And we should demand more from NASCAR, demand more, like you said, Munson, demand the KPIs from these multinational conglomerates that are sucking the blood and the life out of our community and putting nothing back. They're not planting any seeds. They're not toiling the soil. They're not watering our plants. They're not giving back to our community. They are just extracting from it. And as you know, if you continue to take from something, eventually it's going to run out. So they're sucking us dry. So they need to give back. They need to start planting back into the earth from which we stand, so that we can continue to grow like they have grown off of us.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We've got
Yes, sir.
Miss Smith Washington, Terry.
I'm sorry. No. Miss Smith Washington. Oh, okay. Oh, she's yeah, she is here. So welcome aboard, Miss Smith Washington. Okay. Oh, she's been listening.
She's been listening.
Okay, well, hey, shout outs to you for listening. I hope that you were fed, that the stuff was, nutritious, and that the fact that, that we offered something that you felt that you were basically being fed from. So thank you for listening to us at Rolling Out News on this evening. So we appreciate you. We appreciate your support. Absolutely.
So what do you think's next after Confederate? What do you think the next targets will be based on these individuals?
I don't know what they're going to do next. I just think that, I think that a lot of people are capitalizing off the momentum. I think that that there's been generated, the floodgates of demands are just been busted open. But are we asking for the right things? I mean, to ask NASCAR or to cry because NASCAR took down the flag. Okay. Like I said, it's a nice gesture, but it doesn't really move the needle for me at all.
Kentucky.
Taking down the Confederate, taking down Robbie E. Lee from, say, Stone Mountain. Yeah, okay, that's cool. But what exactly is that doing to help uplift and to empower our communities from a financial, spiritual, emotional standpoint? It doesn't. So I think that we need to appropriate our energies in directions that empower us. And by that, they will automatically act they will act differently. They will automatically remove the statues because we now are in place like Jews in Germany. It is against the law. And this didn't come from Germans or the Aryans, as they were called back then. This didn't come from them. This came from the powerful cultural unity of Jews who demanded and got the law that prohibits the swastika to be flown in that country. But they got their power base together first. Then they were able to enact that. See, so in this country, we're making demands, but we have no power base from which to negotiate from a position of equality. We're really negotiating from a position of weakness. So we need to shore up and we need to appropriate our energies in a way, in directions, like in this forum today, to obtain wealth and intergenerational wealth, especially, so that we can begin to build institutions for ourselves, in protections of ourselves, and in advancement of ourselves. So that's how I feel about the Confederate flag and all these other symbols of the white supremacy or the Confederacy. They're really all interconnected to me. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, it's nice, but it's like getting a piece of candy. Yeah, it tastes good, but it doesn't do anything for your body. It just tastes good for the moment, and 5 minutes later you forgot you ate the candy. It did nothing for your body. It didn't strengthen your body. It didn't give you any energy, but it was nice. It was a nice little piece of candy, piece of pie, sweets, nothing nutrition. We need nutritional value. We don't need any more candy. And taking down statues and flags, even from places where they should have never have been, like a military base from which I'm supposed to go in there and defend your nation. That should have never been there or allowed to be there. It should go down, and I'm happy about that. But I mean, I'm not gonna start throwing babies up in the air and throw a parade about it. No.
Well, brother,
and who is that? Harlot Smith, Washington. She says that don't destroy them. They should be put in a museum. Well, true, because we do need to learn from our history, and it's a way to show our kids and our grandkids where we've the road that we have traveled. I get that, but I don't think we should expend so much energy from it. Being happy that it's down. But I understand where she's coming from. We should encase it behind glass in the Smithsonian Institute so that we can go back and see how far we have traveled. But I do agree with that. And they probably have that in Germany. It's just that you can't take that thing from behind the glass and fly it if you want to stay out of prison. So that's my position. But thank you for the comment, Ms. Washington.
Thank you, Ms. Washington, very much. Well, we want to thank everybody for watching Rolling Out News Report. I'm Munson Steed, and this is Terry Shropshire. We'll see you tomorrow night for another great show on Rolling Out News Report. Terry, I'll see you later. Man.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Don't let's not forget to remind them to tune in tomorrow morning from 8 to 10 for Rolling Out AM Wake Up Call. So yeah, definitely
wake up call.
That's right. We're rolling out AM Wake Up Call. We can check out Mr. Steed and myself, along with the rest of the cast and crew of Rolling Out. So yeah, tune in tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock, and we'll see you then on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, and our other social media platforms live. Okay, now you can end it.
All right, and rollingout.com. They shot us at.
Oh, that's right, rollingout.com. We can't forget about that.
Thanks, Terry.
Peace. All right, blessings to all. Peace.